Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we'll be discussing a new way to get a good voice versus game mix in OBS. We'll be discussing how I process my podcast and a whole lot more, so go ahead and stick around. Let's start with our weekly news update. People big mad about politics. People super big mad about politics. Everything has become political. I'm losing my mind. Are you losing your mind? Let me know in the comments down below or send me an email to askbandrew.com. Has your mind been lost? Do you know where I can find one? Because mine is completely gone because everybody big mad about politics. Oh, politics big mad. That's it for the news. That's next. What I've been testing. I am on the SE Electronics Gemini II. This is a dual tube condenser microphone. Wow, it is a beefy boy. Not necessarily in terms of the tone, but the girth of it is massive. This is a girthy son of a gun because it does have two tubes in it. It's got the power supply over yonder, and the word that I would use to describe this is crisp. It has a nice bump in the treble and air, and it is crisp and detailed, and I don't know what I think about it yet. I think it sounds incredible on the acoustic guitar. I think it sounds great for singing. You get that little airy boost, but for spoken word, not 100% sold yet. We'll see how it goes for the next month or so. But let's go ahead, and that's all I got for it. Let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. Let's jump to what you had to say, because we're already there. The first comment comes from Joe Jackson, and he says, "Hey Bandrew, for the voice submission at the 22-minute mark, to help bring down game audio, you can use sidechain compression / audio ducking to lower the game and music audio when you speak. It is found in the built-in compressor plugin settings under filters. Hope this helps." And we also got a comment on the same topic from Houseless Gamer, and they provided some steps on how to add this in. Thank you very much to both of you. Sidechaining is an excellent suggestion for this issue where you want to get a good mix between your voice and the game, where the game volume isn't so low that it misses out on all of the impact of the game audio, whether it be a gunshot, an explosion, a scare, anything. If you don't know what sidechaining is, it is compressing or attenuating a specific signal based on the input of another signal. So when you speak into a microphone, that will signal when to attenuate or decrease the volume of the game and the music. That is what sidechaining and ducking is, and I will go ahead and walk through a very quick tutorial on how to do this right now. Alrighty, I have my microphone running into OBS. This is set to Audio Input Capture 2. I have a second audio source titled Music because I don't have any games on this computer. This is a song that I wrote a while ago just so I have no copyright issues. I will start playing the music now. And then if I start talking, you can hear that the music gets a little bit quieter while I'm speaking. When I stop speaking, the volume increases again. And this is the key to sidechain or ducking. This allows you to attenuate the music or the game sound based on the input of your voice. This sounds kind of funny. You can hear it cutting out and cutting back in because the attack and the release are fairly quick. But with a game sound source, when it is not consistent music, it won't be as jarring, and you can also adjust the threshold and the ratio. If you want it to be a little bit more subtle, decrease the ratio to 2, or if it is attenuating too much, increase the threshold to -22, whatever your sound source is. Do a bunch of tests and listen back to it to see what works best for you, but that is how I found out how to use this, and it's really cool because it creates a little bit of space for your voice without having to scream over the game, without having to do any kind of EQ. pretty simple and straightforward way to get a better mix between your voice and your game audio while you're streaming. There you go. Next up, we got a comment from Crunker Pro. Is that like the crazy clown dance? That's crumping. The crazy clown dancing, that's crumping. My bad. Crunker Pro. He says, "Hi, really enjoyed the podcast as always. I'd really like to see you do an update to your how I process my audio video. Thanks." Crumper Pro, thank you very much for the comment. I appreciate you. That is a great suggestion, and I will do that right now. This is a long clip. It took a long time to film and a long time to edit. I had to film it 4 times, but here is a walkthrough that's 12 minutes long of how I process my podcast audio. Hope it helps you out. Hope you all enjoy it, and I will be clipping it on the channel if that's all you care about. Welcome to the August 2020 How I Process My Podcast video. I am going to be walking you through from beginning to end every single thing that I do to my audio to try to get it as good as possible, to hopefully give you an idea of my thought process and my signal chain, and maybe that will help you out when developing your own signal chain for your podcast. Before I dive into this, I want to admit that I do have a lot of plugins in my signal path, but I try to have each plugin do just a tiny bit of work to improve the audio a little bit. The main key to getting good audio is to get the audio as good as possible before you even hit record. All of these plugins are doing just a touch to try to get it that little extra bit, to try to get it as perfect as I can get it. With that being said, I have a short 40-second fake podcast audio clip to work with. I will play it for you so you can hear the raw, unprocessed audio, and then we'll dive into each plugin. And now I will speak as though I was recording a podcast. Greetings, Earthlings, blah, blah, blah. Welcome. I talk this today. This is what I says. What absolutely riveting content. Great stuff there, Bandrew. The very first plugin that I have is RX7D Reverb, and I use this to dry up my recording a little bit more. My room is already pretty dead, but I want it to be a little bit deader-er, so I use RX7. At the beginning of all of my audio recordings, I clap 3 times, sometimes 6, sometimes 9, sometimes 12, and I will use those claps to train the plugin. I have D-Reverb open, I will click Learn and loop those claps. And now the plugin has learned the profile of reverb in this room. My reduction is only set to 2.2. It is not doing a whole heck of a lot, but it is deadening the recording a little bit more. I will output the reverb only so you can hear what is being taken away from the audio. A minuscule amount is being taken out. I will now play the claps with and without the D-Reverb plugin turned on. Now without. And with. It just reduces the tail of the reverb ever so slightly, and that's what we're doing with all of these, just trying to tame it a little bit more. Next up in the signal path is RX7 Breath Control. This plugin attenuates the level of breaths that you take during the recording. If I were to be speaking close to the mic and then take a deep breath, that is somewhat distracting and it's not good sounding. This will attenuate those breaths. I have the gain reduction set to -10.5 dB. I found that to be a good happy medium because if you attenuate it -infinity, -30, it starts to sound unnatural as though you don't breathe, like you're a robot. So I keep my breaths in the recording, I just attenuate them a little bit. I will now play the audio sample with and without the breath control, And if you're watching the video, make sure to watch the meter so you can see where it is attenuating the breaths. I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make... Very subtle effect there. Nobody's going to think that you're doing any processing. They are just going to think that you're pulling a Tazon Day and moving away from the microphone to take a breath, but in secret, you're not. You're using a plugin for that. That is RX7 breath control. Next up, we have Acusonus Era Plosive Remover. I like this because it's simple, it's one dial, and I don't use it too much. I use it on the normal setting with the processing set to 30%, and this will help control any kind of gusts of air that hit the microphone. And I don't have any in this sample recording, so I can't really demonstrate what it does, but it doesn't affect the overall sound of the recording greatly, but it will control the sub-frequency impact of a healthy plosive, to say the least. Next, we have one of my all-time favorite plugins. This is RX7 Mouth Declick. I hate ASMR, I hate mouth noises, and this plugin helps with that. It will remove all the clicks and clacks and claps of your mouth that are disgusting to listen to. The settings that I have landed on after 50 episodes using this are 3.1 for the sensitivity, frequency skew is 1.8, and click widening is 1.6. I will go ahead and play this, and I will show you what it is removing after you hear it. Good, so I will... Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this. During that short clip, it repaired 61 clicks, rather. Let me output those clicks so you can hear what is being taken out. Just another very subtle effect that ultimately yields a cleaner and more pleasing recording to listen to. Then we have the wonderful FabFilter Pro Q3, which is an equalizer. Typically, I don't do much in terms of corrective EQ. In this, I am only doing a 50 Hz high-pass filter. That's what I do when I jump on a new microphone and I'm using it for the first week. On the last microphone that I used, the U67, the only thing that I did was a 2 dB cut at 875 Hz to clear up a little bit of congestion sound in my voice, and I think it works wonderfully. Then we have my all-time favorite compressor that I have used thus far, the Universal Audio Teletronics LA2A Leveling Amplifier Silver. This thing is gorgeous. It is incredibly musical and smooth, and the thing that I love most about it is it adds a bit of thickness, robustness. It rounds out the low end of your voice, and for me, I need a lot of help with that, and that is why I love this compressor so much. I will go ahead and play it for you with and without this compressor turned on. Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make this? There you go. That is the compressor. And the last plugin that I use on the individual channel strip is FabFilter Pro DS, which is a de-esser. That helps tame some of the sharp S sounds that you have. If you have whistling S's, and you are doing long-form content, that can be very fatiguing and distracting and painful for your audience. This will help tame those and make it easier for your audience to listen to it. Let me go ahead and play it with the de-esser, and then I will play it without the de-esser. Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make this? Again, a very subtle effect, but ultimately yielding a more pleasing and easier to listen to product. The last thing that I do in Logic Pro on my master channel is throw on a Universal Audio SSL-G bus compressor, and this is another thing that just adds a touch of color, a touch of character to the recording. And because I do have outro music and an outro bumper in the same file, this helps glue all of that together just a tiny bit. It's a slight effect, but I think it adds a nice coloration to the recording, and I'm only getting around 1 to 2 dB of gain reduction at the most. I will go ahead and play it with and without the SSL-G bus compressor. Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make this sound good? I don't know. My voice doesn't sound good, so I will need to do some magic to make it sound good. Let's see if we can do that with the processing for this channel. Can I make this? And that is all the processing that I do within Logic Pro. The next step is to export the audio as a lossless WAV file, 24-bit, 48 kilohertz, and then I will show you the very last step. And here we are at the very last step of processing. I will dump that WAV file into the desktop version of Auphonic Leveler, and I will normalize the audio to -16 LUFS, which I think is a perfectly healthy level for a show to be at. Not too loud, not too quiet, doesn't ruin the audio, doesn't overly compress or limit the audio, but still gets it to a very healthy listening level. And I will bounce it out of Auphonic as a WAV file with the exact same sample rate and exact same bit depth as it normally was. And there you go. That is the processing that I do to my podcast as of August 2020. I will now level the original raw unprocessed audio to -16 LUFS, and I will play that. Then I will play the processed audio also leveled to -16 LUFS, so you can hear what kind of difference all of those plugins make on the final product. Hope that helped you. All y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in another 2 years with a new, updated How I Process My Podcast. And now I will speak as though I was recording a podcast. Greetings, Earthlings, blah, blah, blah. Welcome. I talk this today. This is what I says. And now I will speak as though I was recording a podcast. Greetings, Earthlings, blah, blah, blah. Welcome. I talk this today. This is what I says. And now I will speak as though I was recording a podcast. Greetings, Earthlings, blah, blah, blah. Welcome. I talk this today. This is what I says. And now I will speak as though I was recording a podcast. Greetings, Earthlings, blah, blah, blah. Welcome. I talk this today. This is what I says. Next up, we have a comment from Mateo Tapia, and he says, Bandrew, you could replace your U67 with a Peluso P67. That microphone is even better than the U87AI, and it's only cost $2,000 in Thomann, UK. I know it's expensive, but it sounds even better than the U87AI that is $3,200. So I think you could use a Peluso P67 in the BSP. Thanks for reading my comment. Mateo, that is an excellent, excellent question. I am fully aware of Peluso microphones. I actually purchased a Peluso P414 maybe 4 months ago. I haven't even used it yet, but I am very excited to. especially after I emailed them to try to determine the manufacturing location of their microphones, and I wrote a note about what I found out. It is assembled in the USA, and the capsules, the actual heart of the microphones, are hand-built in the USA. Once I learned that, I am absolutely going to go and try a lot more Peluso microphones. The first one I will be trying is the P414, because I believe this utilizes a brass capsule like the original 414s that had the same capsule as the original AKG C12. Lots of model numbers, very confusing, but thank you very much for the suggestion. I will look into a P67, but first, I gotta try the 414 and see if I like it, if I think it was worth the grand that it cost. Thank you very much. Next comment comes from a bunch of people, and it is all about the SM7B. First one comes from Christian, and he says, "Love the channel, Bandrew. I recently sold my SM7B for the EV RE27ND and got exactly what I wanted. Better clarity and tone right out of the box. The 7B is a nice, simple-looking microphone, but out of the box, it's very simple. Clear but lacking personality, which I know some people want. The RE27 feels like it has so much more dynamic range to my voice. Love the presence, which was lacking in the 7B. Gabriel says, hot take inbound, SM57 is greater than the SM7B. Murray's Tech Time says, well, Bandrew, another great video podcast, I think that guy either doesn't know how to use an SM7B, his audio sounds hollow to me, am I wrong? Or was I listening to others who have that problem? I do like the sound of your voice on it, but you definitely have mics that sound better on your voice than the SM7B. I feel bad now. Stay safe and keep well. And lastly, we have one from Jelly Raw. They say, sometimes I question whether or not I really needed an SM7B. Then I remember that I used to spend like 10 times as long editing audio to try to get the smooth sound that just comes right out of this thing. Few regrets. The reason that I included all of these comments is because this is what I love about audio so damn much. It's different strokes for different folks. What I love, you may hate. What you love, I may hate. Imagine how incredibly boring it would be if all of us just said, I love the SM7B. The SM7B is the best microphone ever. Ever! It would be horrifying, boring, and everybody else would stop making microphones. Just sell the single microphone that everybody agrees is the best microphone ever. That would be such a sad, boring, dull world. If you think the SM57 is a better microphone than the SM7B, amazing. You just saved yourself $300. That is incredible. If you think that I have better microphones for my voice than the SM7B, good. Because I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on microphones, and I would pray to the few things good in this world that they do sound better than a $400 microphone. Or if you bought the SM7B and determined that this is the sound that you want, that smooth, soft, warm sound, amazing. This is what I love about audio, and it's why I wanted to include a bunch of people saying, no, I don't like the SM7B, somebody saying, I like the 57 better than the 7B, and somebody saying, I love the SM7B. It's incredible, and audio, this entire community is amazing. Thank you all for being a part of it. You're incredible, and thank you for sharing your opinions. I appreciate every single one of you. Now let's jump to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. Why am I wagging my finger at you? You did nothing wrong. Ask Bandrew segment. Roll the tape! Okay, welcome to the Ask Bandrew segment. If y'all have any questions, you can go to askbandrew.com. You can send in an audio, video, or text-based submission. I will most likely answer your question on an upcoming episode of the show. I do prefer audio and video because then I don't have to read because I suck at it. And we get to hear how you sound on your microphone, on your audio setup, and it's so much fun to do that. First email comes from Anonymous because they did not sign it. I do not know if they want their name. They say, Hey Bandrew, I've learned a lot about microphones recently so that I can improve the quality of my history voiceovers. I don't have a huge amount of money, so I can't get my room treated or anything. I purchased a Behringer UM2 and an MXL V67G, and honestly, my $20 headset mic sounds better. The file labeled MXL Test 2 was recorded with the V67G, and the other was recorded with the Sadie's SA902. I feel as if, short of a Neumann, all microphones I've heard have a muffled, inaccurate sound to them. How can I get a microphone to have an accurate sound, and is there a microphone which has that at an affordable price? I'm okay with spending up to $150. I've already got an audio interface. I'm sitting at my desk in the corner of my untreated bedroom. Thanks for reading my question, and have a great day. Thank you very much for the email. Right here, I will go ahead and play both samples, the MXL V67G and then your Sadie's headset, so everybody watching and listening to the show can hear the audio that you sent in.
I am recording with the MXL V67G.
The second problem was that the Kriegsmarine lacked the bases necessary to expand its reach outside of the North Sea.
First things first, I am going to disagree that the V67G sounds worse than the Sadie's. I do think there's something wrong with the setup, though, because there is an ungodly amount of hiss in the V67G recording, which should not be there. That is a condenser microphone with a pretty normal output. With the UM2, you shouldn't be driving the gain to 100%, so you should not be capturing all of that hiss. Something is wrong. I am not sure what it is because I don't know what your gain is set at. I don't know if you have channel 2 cranked all the way up. I don't know what is causing that hiss, but something is wrong there. Also, it sounds as though you don't like the idea of proximity effect. If you don't know what proximity effect is, that is a boost to the low-end frequency when you get close to directional microphones. The V67G is a directional microphone. I believe it is cardioid. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been years since I've looked at it. And my guess is the Sadie's SA902 has an omnidirectional polar pattern on the headset microphone. That is very common for the affordable headsets. And with an omnidirectional microphone, that means it is non-directional. So as you get closer to the microphone, it is not going to have that proximity effect. You are not going to have that big bass boost. What I would suggest is with the V67G, first determine where that hiss is coming from. Something is wrong there. There should not be that much hiss in your recording. And secondly, you could either back away from the microphone a little bit, although you are in an untreated room. So that may not be the best option because that will increase the amount of room tone, the amount of reverb going around your room and being picked up by the microphone. And instead, try throwing on a high-pass filter at maybe 70 hertz. And you can also try a little bit of a low cut, maybe around 150 hertz. Sometimes around 200 is where some of that boxiness comes in. Play around with the EQ a little bit to EQ out some of that really robust low end if that's not what you want. The V67G should sound significantly better than the Sadie's SA902 headset. There's just something wrong with the way that it's set up. Let me know if you got any questions, send in an email, leave a comment down below on YouTube, and let's work through this because something is going on there. Next, we have a voice submission from Eli. Take it away, Eli.
Hey, Bandrew. It's Eliran again. We spoke once, and I took your feet through the fire, and you came back squeaky clean. So I'm going to try again. First of all, thank you for answering my questions and everyone else's questions. We appreciate you. So the first one would be, did you notice that Rode raised all of its prices for all of Rode's items throughout the microphones, the equipment, the PSA, and not only did it raise the prices, the NT1 now comes with the Shockmount that used to come with the NT1A. But in general, they just raised all the prices. And to be honest, I've noticed some other brands just systematically just took this time to raise the prices. And I was wondering, what's your opinion about it? What do you think? Is it temporary? Do you agree? I just want to hear your take on it. Secondly, this is more of a suggestion. There is a very, very interesting mic that you have never reviewed. You're gonna hate me for suggesting it because it comes in a big box, like bigger than you would expect, but it's a very unknown or maybe known to some people, and it's the Rode K2. I think you would find it quite interesting, and I think, and it's not very, you cannot really find a lot of reviews on it or information. So I think having your insight on that particular mic would be valuable. So if it's something within your powers, I think I would suggest that mic. And thirdly, I've recently went back to one of your older episodes. It was from a hotel room, I think, but you spoke about podcast hosting. So my question would be, what do you think about self-hosting? And what do I mean by that? I heard about an option to just host your podcast, just have the MP3 on your drive and somehow connect it with some RSS or connect it to other feeds, just hosting the podcast on your own Google Drive or whatever platform or cloud you might have, and then you're kind of you don't have to pay for the rent until a certain amount. And I just wanted to hear your take on it. Is it feasible? Is it doable? Is it practical? And I'm sure you've researched the topic, and if not, I would love to hear your opinion anyway. Regardless, from all of us, thank you for your beautiful reviews. I appreciate you, we appreciate you, and I wish you're gonna have a cool week. Thanks, Eliran.
Eli, thank you so much for sending in another voice submission. I am glad that I got out scot-free. I did not get into trouble with my last response to you. What a great set of questions. First off, as far as Rode increasing prices of their products and changing the shock mount that comes with the NT1, I looked up the price for the NT1 kit and the PSA1, and I did not notice any increase in price. It's still $99 and $269 respectively, which is what it's been for the entire time that I've been running this channel since I've bought them. Then as far as justification for a pricing increase, I would look into the tariffs in your country right now. I know over the past few years, I have seen quite a few audio products increase in price. The one that hurt the most was the Universal Audio analog gear. When I bought the LA610, it was a few months after it went up from $1,600 to $1,800. The reason for those pricing increases are tariffs on Chinese imported goods, and Universal Audio imports a lot of stuff from China, meaning they have to increase the cost to ensure that they don't go from earning a 20% profit margin down to a 5% profit margin. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I think that's fair. We shouldn't expect companies to say, we were making 20% profit because of the politicians in power right now. Let's go ahead and go down to 5%. I think it's fair for them to pass that on to the consumer. Then us as consumers will be angry about that and we'll vote based on that impact to our life. I think that's the way it's supposed to work. If we don't like the tariffs, if we don't like the increase in price, we have to do something about it. You do that through voting. Then as far as the shock mount being changed on the NT1, somebody in my Discord server, by the way, podcastage.com/Discord, if you want to come, hang out, talk about audio, talk about microphones. We hang out all day long and just talk and nerd out, and it's amazing. Somebody in the Discord server contacted Rode. They found out the reason that Rode switched from the Rycote shock mount to the NT1A shock mount is because they're going to be including an XLR cable in the kit, and had they continued to include the Rycote shock mount and then threw in a XLR cable, then they would have had to bump up the price a little bit. So they did that to ensure that the price would stay around the $269 price point. Then you ask about the Rode K2. What a happy accident that I played this week, because I ordered this microphone maybe 2 months ago, the K2 and the Rode NTK, and they arrived this last week. I have been stacking up on tube condenser microphones for months now, you can expect a Rode NTK and a Rode K2 review in the coming 6-month region, and I am very excited to see Rode's tube offerings. I also finally got the Rode NTR, their ribbon offering, and that took a while as well, but you will be getting one. So Eli, great suggestion and really weird timing that I downloaded this and played it this week. And the last question you have is about self-hosting. I am not a big fan of self-hosting because I don't know how to do it. Stephen Bandrew from Better Podcasting, you can find that at betterpodcasting.com. They have a few episodes that dive really deep into how to self-host. When you're talking about hosting those files on Google Drive or a standard web host, I would be very careful with that, because as soon as you start to get a lot of traffic on your show, then they may come to you and shut down your website. They may say, you didn't pay for this. This isn't a podcast host. Why are you doing this? This is not what you signed up for. You are not paying for this. We're shutting you down. And then you have to go and find a new host, do the whole redirect for the RSS feed. For someone like me who is not hugely into the web hosting stuff, I'm not really deep into that or too knowledgeable, I don't like it. I would recommend you check out a few episodes from Better Podcasting. Again, betterpodcasting.com. Just go to their website and search for self-hosting. Stephen Bandrew, huge advocate for that, and he could steer you in the right direction on how to go about it and if it's right for you. Go check that out. Eli, thank you so much for the amazing questions. I appreciate you're a legend. Keep up the amazing work. We have another voice submission. That's right. Number 3, voice submission from Polly from Australia. Take it away, Polly.
Hey, Bandrew. I'm Polly from Australia. Thank you so much for your amazing work. I've learned so much from you. I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, how do you mic acoustic guitar in your video? I would like to learn more about this. The second question is whether I should upgrade my audio interface or not. I know that you have answered this question many times, but my audio interface is about 10 years old, and you have only compared the recent entry-level audio interfaces to expensive ones. I do podcasting weekly using UA25EX from Roland and 2 SM57s. You're hearing the unprocessed audio from these gears. Could you give me some advice on this, on whether I should upgrade my audio interface into Mo2 M2 or similar audio interfaces? Cheers.
What a great set of questions. First off, how do I mic up my acoustic guitar in my review videos? You know me. If you watch this show, you know me. I like including examples. Let's jump to an example of me miking up my acoustic guitar. When I am miking up my acoustic guitar for the reviews, I try to be about 1 foot away from the microphone, and I try to get the microphone right where the neck meets the body. That's a good mix between the fullness of miking up the sound hole, which can be a bit much, and the brightness of miking up a little bit farther up the neck, maybe at the 12th or 9th fret, something like that. I will go ahead and demonstrate that sound and let you see the placement and all of that right now. Okay, so right now I am about 10 to 12 inches away from the microphone. It is directed at the point of the guitar where the neck meets the body, and I apologize ahead of time for the buzzing on the guitar. I don't know what is causing that. It's a 20-year-old affordable budget guitar, and I think I may need to upgrade now. But here it is. And now, just for comparison, I will put the microphone pointed at the portion of the guitar body directly beneath the bridge, which should give us a little bit fuller sound and a little bit more punchy midsection. So I'll go ahead and play with the microphone in that position now. There you go. That is how I mic up the acoustic guitar for my reviews. I try to be relatively consistent with the placement on the guitar and the distance from the microphone to make it more comparable from video to video. Hope that helped. Thank you so much for the question. And secondly, you ask if you should upgrade your interface, which is about 10 years old. I honestly don't think so unless there are some glaring issues on your side. If there are some features that you desperately need that your current interface doesn't have. But based on the audio that you just sent in, that we just listened to, that sounds pretty damn good. That sounds pretty dang good. I don't hear any excessive line noise, any underlying hiss. You sound nice and clean. I don't think you need to from any technical standpoint, from any end product issues. Because of that, what I would recommend is right now start throwing 10 or 20 bucks into a savings account every single month and then upgrade the interface when the one that you're using right now dies. Maybe it'll die in 2 years or 4 years. Then you'll have $500 to $1,000 saved up and you wouldn't have to go with an entry-level interface, a $200 interface. You could spring for a Universal Audio or an Apogee, both of which would most likely end up lasting you another decade. I think that's the route that I would go. If you don't have any issues with it, if it's not giving you any trouble, do not upgrade the interface just for the sake of upgrading it, because based on what I just heard, it sounds great. Only you're going to know if it's missing features that you absolutely need. If that's the case, go for it. Go for the Mo2, go for the SSL, whichever one has the feature set that you need. But if you're doing it just for the sound, I don't see any need for it based on the submission that you just sent in. Thank you very much, Polly, for the great question. Let's jump to another voice submission, this time from Jaden. Take it away, Jaden.
Hey, Bandrew. I've started streaming recently, and I've been fiddling with compression on my Q802 USB interface. I was wondering how much compression is too much. I've heard too much compression destroys dynamic range, but is it that important to a streamer that doesn't want a big difference in volume between normal speaking and shouting?
Jaden, what an excellent question. And to confuse you right off the bat, yes and no. You can overcompress, and no, you can't overcompress. Even now, I'm confused about what I just said. That doesn't make any sense. What am I saying? I think you absolutely can overcompress, and your audio starts to sound a little bit funky. You start sounding like Howard Stern. You start sounding like a radio host. And for a stream, I think that is detrimental, distracting, and it just sounds bad. But the reason why I said no is because I think that dynamic range is far less important, in my opinion, for a stream. The entire reason that we buy all of this audio stuff, the reason we buy mics, the reason we buy preamps and compressors and de-essers and plugins up the wazoo is because we are buying them to ultimately try to make the end product easier for the listener or the viewer to enjoy. That is the goal of all of it. If adding a little bit more compression than you normally would makes it easier for your listeners and your viewers to hear you over the game audio, absolutely go for it. But if not, if you just want to because you want to and it starts making you sound funky like a radio host, don't do it. But if you're doing it with a purpose, go for it. But you know me, I am not just going to wax poetic about it. Let's jump to some samples. so I can demonstrate what I think is a good level of compression, then a little bit too much, and then way too much. Let's jump to that sample right now. Alrighty, here is an audio sample of me speaking normally. This is me without any compression whatsoever, natural microphone directly into the computer through an audio interface with no processing. Here, I now have a little bit of compression, maybe 4 or 5 dB of gain reduction, something a little bit more natural. I will increase it a touch right here to let you see what I think is the edge of acceptability. And here we have gone overboard. This is far too much compression. I will have up on the screen for the video the plugin for the compression so you can see what kind of gain reduction we're getting. At this point, I think it sounds unnatural, unpleasant, and you sound like a radio show. Don't sound like a radio show. That's the moral of the story. Thank you very much for the amazing questions, Jaden. I appreciate ya. And we have one last Ask Bandrew submission. This is from the UK. They say, "Hi Bandrew, I'm Dan from the UK and I'm 16 years old. Love your videos and I have followed you for the past couple of years. Hashtag stickers, hashtag pizza." Agreed. Number 1, how do you safely unplug a condenser microphone from an audio interface, preamp, processor rack? What is the correct way to do it? And 2, I need a low-cost audio interface to get me back up and running till I can afford something better, as my interface just died. I use a Shure SM7B. Will a Behringer UM2 be okay as a short-term fix? Please, could you do an audio sample? Thank you for the awesome reviews. Dan, thank you very much for the kind words. Hashtag stickers, hashtag pizza. I agree 100%. What's the proper way to disconnect or connect a condenser microphone? Shut off the phantom power. That's the number 1 rule. Before you plug in a condenser microphone or before you unplug a condenser microphone, make sure phantom power is off and make sure the microphone is completely unpowered. Sometimes it takes a few seconds for the microphone to completely shut off, and then you can unplug it or plug it back in. The reason that you're doing this is not because you're going to damage the microphone. I don't think that plugging it in or hot swapping a condenser will damage it. The reason you're doing it is because that hot swapping of the microphone can cause some really loud pops. If you have headphones on, that can damage your ears. If you have studio monitors, that could damage the studio monitors. It's about protecting the other gear in the studio as opposed to the microphone. So just shut off the phantom power before you unplug it or plug in the condenser. And then you ask, is the Behringer UM2 good enough for the SM7B? What do you think I'm going to do? Let's check it out. SM7B into the Behringer UM2. Here we are on the Shure SM7B in neutral mode, no high pass, no presence boost, connected over XLR to XLR directly to the Behringer UM2. My gain is set at 100% and we are hitting around -9 dB on the meter. I will go ahead and bring this up in post so that it is at a listenable level, because if you're buying this, you want it to be at a listenable level. So we'll go ahead and do that so you can hear the noise floor. I will go ahead and be quiet so you can hear that. And there you have it. This is the Shure SM7B running through the $30 Behringer UM2. Although now, because we're in quarantine and supply chain shortages and everybody wanting one of these, I'm sure it's now like $3,000. Who knows what it costs now. But there you go. Hope that helped, Dan. Best of luck to you. And I hope you get your new interface up and running. All right. That is it for this week's episode. I have one announcement. I cannot believe this happened. We just hit 200,000 subscribers on the Podcastage channel. What? Thank you all so much for subscribing and supporting that channel, because I know the majority of you are from Podcastage over here. Thank you all so much. It really does mean the absolute world to me that I get to do this in my free time. It's a dream come true. It is so much fun, and I could not do it without you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. 200,000? What? Absolutely insane. That is it now. Until next week, thank you so much for coming by. I love you. You are a beautiful human being. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you are enjoying life. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you. Let me know what you think of the SE Electronics Gemini II. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.